So we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining us. Allison, I know you're going to kick us off, so I'm going to pass it over to you.
Perfect. Thank you, Bridget. Well, hi, everyone, and thank you so much for being here today. I don't want to take up too much of your time before we get to the real program, but my name is Allison, and I'm the Education Director here at Mission 43. And I really just wanted to start off by thanking Teach for America, or TFA, the TFA team, for not only partnering with us on this today, but for showing up consistently to support our military community and creating pathways into one of the most important and impactful professions out there. And that's education, in my opinion, humble opinion. At Mission 43, our goal is to make sure that military members, veterans, and their spouses have access to the tools, resources, and connections that they need to succeed after service. And that includes helping our members explore high need career fields like educations, where their leadership, discipline, and service mindset truly matter and can make a difference every single day. And we found out that there's really no one size all path fits all path into education. So that's why we're here today. And we're so excited about today's conversation. And this conversation is going to give you a chance to hear directly from someone who's done it, a military connected professional who's chosen to step into the classroom to lead and to serve again, but in a completely new way. So, whether you're here because you're already thinking about education or you're just curious about what's possible, I hope that you take this opportunity to listen and maybe to reflect or consider how your own experience might translate into this really special space. And if something you hear resonates with you, I truly do encourage you to reach out, ask questions, and take that next step. And you'll hear what that next step is, of course, today in this webinar. So thank you again for being here. I know your time is valuable, and I really appreciate you spending it with us today. So now I will hand it over to the TFA team to get us started.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bridget Gator, and I work as our Director of Recruitment for Teach for America. I support our recruitment efforts across the Pacific Northwest. I'm also an alum of Teach for America. I did our 2-year Teacher Corps opportunity in New York City in 2011, where I taught high school special education in Brooklyn, New York. Fell in love with teaching, stayed in the classroom as a teacher for about 10 years, and then became an instructional coach for other teachers across New York City. And then recently moved out to the Pacific Northwest and helping out with our recruitment efforts at different universities. And I will pass it over to Tyler Johnston to introduce himself.
Hi, everyone, and thank you again for just being here today. As Bridget said, my name is Tyler. I am currently in recruiting for Teach for America full-time. Just stepped out of the classroom where I did 2 years for Teach for America in middle school special education. As mentioned earlier, I am a veteran, so I did 4 years right out of high school in the Army as a combat medic with the 87th Air Assault. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me. Looking forward to talking and hearing about or answering any questions that you guys have today.
Thank you, Tyler. And we're definitely going to hear more about Tyler's experience a little bit later on. Throughout our time together today, I encourage you to drop any questions that arise into the chat. And of course, if you want to engage with any of your fellow attendees, please feel free to do so in the chat as well. This is a brief agenda on how we will spend our time together today. We're going to start by telling you a little bit more about who we are at Teach for America. Teach for America is a national nonprofit that develops early career leaders who want to make an immediate difference and grow in the process. College students, recent grads, and seasoned professionals support underserved communities in paid roles, either as a part-time tutor through Teach for America Ignite or as full-time teachers hired by local school districts through the Teach for America Corps, where they lead real learning and drive real outcomes for kids. Our work focuses on a critical issue facing our country and the U.S. A child's zip code often predicts their educational opportunities and long-term success. When we talk about educational opportunities and long-term success, zip code isn't just impacting an individual's career trajectory. It's also impacting their access to healthcare, to housing, and it affects the rate at which they vote, their likelihood of being incarcerated, and it literally affects how long they live. We believe every child deserves an excellent education and the chance to pursue their dreams, no matter where they live or how much money their family makes. We work with students from every background because all kids deserve access to a great education and leaders who are willing to show up and make that happen. So, whether you're planning a career in education, law, medicine, or you're still exploring, if you care about social impact, want to lead now, or believe in growing through service, Teach for America is a powerful space to discover your leadership style and make a tangible difference. Tyler, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you can share a bit. Tyler, sorry, I'd like to hear a little bit more about you sharing about your motivation to join Teach for America after your military service.
Yeah, so after my military service, I didn't join Teach for America right away. I ended up going to college and getting a degree in education, teaching for 3 years, then joining Teach for America. The kind of reason why I switched from teaching on my own to teaching with Teach for America was not only the support that is offered from trying to help you get your licensure in the state to being the best teacher in the classroom for the students, but also the opportunities that they provide after. Teach for America is all about making sure that you're prepared for your long-term goals, and that really spoke to me. And I just really appreciated how much they invested into their staff and really gave back to them so that they could give back to the students, do that hard work in the classroom. It was very much a supportive network. And that's kind of why I decided to change from teaching on my own in a school to teaching with Teach for America.
Thanks, Tyler, for sharing that. And we'll definitely get more into that a little bit later with our question and answer portion. Now, I want to share a little bit more about the opportunities available for Teach for America, including the teacher corps that Tyler served in. Our two primary programs are Teach for America Ignite and the Teach for America Corps, both of which position leaders alongside other determined individuals in their communities to make an impact. For college students looking for a paid public service opportunity to grow professionally during the school year, Teach for America Ignite is a virtual tutoring program that accelerates learning outcomes and confidence for K through 12 students in underserved schools. Through training and tutoring, Ignite Fellows impact students while developing skills that translate into any career. You'll be able to work from home, schedule consistent small group tutoring sessions around your commitments, and earn a financial award ranging from $800 to $1,400 for each term. Along the way, you'd foster belonging with students through supporting them in elementary literacy, middle school math, or high school, college, and career mentorship. For college seniors, graduate students, and professionals looking to make an impact and build skills in a career that aligns with your values, the Teach for America Corps offers you a full-time leadership position where you'll be challenged and expected to lead. You'll be a full-time teacher employed in an underserved school, earn a full salary and benefits, and grow your skills and network through service and leadership. We place teachers in nearly 40 different regions, and you can choose the location you want to teach in. Now, these are not just experiences to boost your resume. This is a leadership training in action. This is the kind of early career challenge that top grad schools and employers recognize. Our programs allow you to build key transferable skills like facilitation, communication, problem solving, and strategic thinking, all while helping students succeed. Teach for America Ignite has been rapidly growing since 2020, and just last year, fellows worked with more than 4,000 students and created more than 250,000 additional hours of learning. Since the Teach for America Corps was founded in 1990, Corps members have accelerated the academic and personal growth of more than 10 million students. More than 70,000 individuals have completed the Teacher Corps, and by joining TFA, you are gaining a network of alumni across every field who are committed to expanding opportunities for all kids. It's important to note that the Teacher Corps requires you to have a bachelor's degree by May 2026, while Ignite is open for college students in both undergrad and graduate programs who have not yet completed their degree. When you join Teach for America, you're joining a community of people ready to support, challenge, and lead alongside you. The leadership and impact of our tutors and teachers in the classroom plays a critical role in expanding access to kids and communities and equips them with transferable skills that allow them to go on and make an impact in any field after the course. We actively invest in helping corps members and alumni build deep, lasting relationships so that wherever you go beyond the corps, they are well positioned to make change alongside others. Corps members and alumni launch ventures, pass policy, and lead school systems together. This is how we create a long-term change by building coalitions and partnerships that carry the work forward. Our alumni are in classrooms, boardrooms, courtrooms, and elected office, and many say the corps helped them get there. You can see some of the common pathways up on the slide, including 14,400 veteran educators, 2,600 school and systems leaders, 1,600 policy advocacy and organizing leaders, and nearly 300 elected government officials, and 200 plus social entrepreneurs. More than 300 alumni have been named in the Forbes list of their innovation, impact, and leadership. We see teaching as an active leadership and know the skills you gained through the Teach for America Corps will position you to make an impact for the rest of your life. So, whether you see yourself teaching for the next 30 years or pursuing one of these other unique pathways to create opportunity, we encourage you to continue to explore the opportunities we provide at Teach for America. We'll share a bit more about logistics and how you can move forward before we wrap up for today's session. Now, at this point, you may be wondering whether Teach for America is the right next step for you. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Teach for America is not merely a teaching pipeline. We look for mission-driven, proven leaders who want to make a difference in the lives of our children every single day. And after serving our country with distinction, you've developed the service orientation and leadership skills needed to transform education in America and ensure every child has access to an excellent education, regardless of their zip code. Skills that you've honed over time, such as your ability to lead under pressure, your commitment to mission, your drive to serve something greater than yourself. These are exactly what our students need right now. Just as you've answered the call to serve this nation, we invite you to join us in a new mission, leading the fight for equal access to excellent education. We have some additional considerations for you on the screen. If any of these bullet points really resonate with you, we encourage you to answer the call to join TFA, whether in our Teacher Corps or in our Ignite Fellowship. Tyler, while we're on this topic, I'm curious to hear a little bit from you on how your military background influenced your approach to teaching and leading in the classroom.
Yeah. So obviously, we all know how much leadership we get in the military. Whether you're freshly going through it with the National Guard or in kind of working through that, or you're recently separated, there's a lot of leadership that we have. And what that really translates to in teaching, specifically with Teach for America, is you're going to be looked at in the school as a leader coming in day one. The superintendents, the principals, the other teachers, when they realize that you're previous military, they understand that you have those leadership qualities and they look to you. Even if they've been teaching for 20 years, they look to you for guidance because they know that you are able to lead a classroom of students and be effective when you're leading. So that's kind of really the big way that I saw it kind of transfer from the military over to teaching and Teach for America is that you're really looked at as a leader coming into the school, which is very unique and very cool opportunity.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Tyler. At this point, I'd love to hand over a little bit of information from Teach for America Idaho. So I'd love to introduce Tony, the Executive Director of Teach for America Idaho, to give us a little bit more specifics about the impact of TFA in Idaho.
Hi, everyone. I guess good afternoon, technically. My name is Tony Ashton. I'm the Executive Director of Teach for America here in Idaho. I am an alum of Teach for America. I started my career in education in 2001 and was a fifth grade teacher in New Orleans. Taught for a number of years after that, and then moved to Idaho 11 years ago to start the program here. I'm originally from Utah and just really felt like a program and an organization that I deeply valued should have a presence in a part of the country where I feel like we could really have an impact. And so I don't love just reading slides to folks because I feel like you're competent human beings. And I also don't like talking while you're reading. So I'll give you just a couple minutes to read this, maybe 45 seconds to read this slide, and then I'll maybe share some things that aren't on this slide. So just give you a couple seconds here. Okay. Wait time is a teacher move that I struggled with. So I think I was skimmed through it. And there might be some things on here that you may not actually know what they mean, and that's okay. We'll get to that later on in the presentation. Look, I'll be name my bias. I love this state, and I love this state for the people that are here, particularly for the students and families that we have the opportunity to work with every day. As our executive director, I'm not in the classroom, but I try and get as close as I can, really through the people that participate in our program. And I'm incredibly proud of the fact that over the past 10 years, we've impacted over 60,000 students in Idaho directly. This current year, we are supporting over 135 individuals that are working in low income schools across Idaho. Part of that is our teacher corps, but a huge part of that, and I think a real uniqueness of our work in Idaho, is the idea that Teach for America is really working to support teams of individuals that are working toward a shared vision of what students' success looks like, primarily at the school level. And so that can look like our Ignite program, our tutoring program that Bridget mentored. It could look like our core members. It could look like we run a mentor program. So folks that, whether or not they did Teach for America, are experienced educators and are helping support new teachers. It can look like folks participating in a program called the Rural School Leadership Academy, which connects them to best-in-class resources and the opportunity to connect with other rural educators and school leaders across the country. It's probably what I'm most proud of when I think about our organization's work in Idaho, is that I really think change happens through groups of people working together towards a collective vision of what success might look like. And so I think we've created something special here in Idaho, and the data does seem to really reflect it when you look at the experience of our participants. And I'm biased. I just had dinner last night with a whole handful of our alumni, and nothing gets me more inspired than talking with a group of about 20 people who are doing this work. And those folks are everything from school leaders to educators to working in business, but all of them share a belief in all students. And I would say most importantly, they don't just want to talk about it, they actually want to do something about it. And if I reflect back on my own journey about Teach for America, that's what brought me into this work was, we can talk all we want about education or the possibilities that exist, but what does it mean to actually do something about it? And so I love my job and I love this organization. Clearly I'm biased, but really for the impact that we're able to have. And then the last thing I will say is I am based here in Idaho. So if you are ever interested in connecting with me to talk about any questions you have or talk with any of our teachers, please know I am a phone call or a text message away. So I think that's everything I wanted to say, but if you have any questions, please let me know. I unfortunately am going to have to hop off a little early, but I will put my phone number and email in the chat.
Thank you so much, Tony, for sharing that and giving us more of a context of Teach for America in Idaho. So we've given you quite a few different things to think about. And now we're going to give you more information so that we can hear more of Tyler's experience. So Tyler, if we can, give Tyler, please give Tyler, sorry, a warm welcome as he shares his insights as his time as a Teach for America teacher. So many attendees are seeking a new sense of mission. As a former Army medic, you've handled crisis and complex needs under pressure. How did that background prepare you for the unique challenge and empathy required when teaching middle school special education? Can you share a specific moment when those medic skills surfaced unexpectedly in the classroom?
Yes, I could share so many stories about times that it came up in the classroom, from just briefly going into the medical part was being there for the kid. right? When a kid is sick, when a kid has an injury on the playground, it can be difficult to be there in that moment, especially if you're a little squeamish with whatever. But I was able to go up to a student who wasn't even in my grade, wasn't any like contact with me, and I helped him in that moment. And every day since then, he was like, "Hey, Mr. Johnston, how you doing? How you doing? Hi, it's great to see you." Like every day, and that's really kind of where the medical part came into play, developing that relationship. But the overall being military, how that really comes into play is classroom management is one of the largest ways I see it. A lot of teachers coming into their first, second, third, 18th year of education, every classroom is different, every group of students is different, and managing 30 teenagers can be difficult at times. Being able to have a group doing something, let's say 20 kids out of the room were doing all right. The 10 kids over in the corner were playing games on their computer. Being able to simultaneously direct those 20 students to continue working while approaching the other 10 and being able to work with both groups at the same time is a huge benefit because you're able to manage that whole classroom and really individualize what those two groups need in that moment. And that's something that you get from the military, those in the moment decisions and those just being able to deal with multiple, at times stressful things happening in the environment around you. So that's kind of how I saw those two come into play in the last couple of years.
Thanks for sharing that, Tyler. What surprised you most about the parallels between these two forms of service?
Yeah. Well, we all know that being in the military can be thankless at times. Of course, everybody will thank you, but knowing what truly goes on is something that not a lot of people get to experience. And I feel the same in the classroom. Everyone knows of education. Everyone went to school. Well, most people. And that's what Teach for America is working towards is everybody. But um, being able to have just that service oriented, you're here for the students is a huge parallel because there is 1,000 things that will happen in your classroom in a day. And those students will go home and tell their parents one thing, or somebody in the other class might see one thing. So just really being able to dig in deep and do that work day after day was a parallel. But once again, just kind of the rigidity almost of leadership in military helped me going into a school, kind of knowing, all right, this person has been here for 3 years. They're great at this aspect of teaching. I'm going to look to them for that. This next person has been here for 20 years. They're great in lesson planning or whatever it may be. I'm going to look for that. And then also moving into administration in like the student supports, being able to see that leadership and like the specialties of each person was really like something I guess I wasn't prepared for going in, but a cool transferable skill.
Thanks for sharing that, Tyler. I can imagine that having those parallels definitely help you to build a stronger community and working with other teachers within the school that you were into. So it's awesome. All right, so my next question is beyond basic leadership, what is one skill like adaptability, high stakes decision making, or resourcefulness that you use constantly as a service member that you then found yourself relying on in your classroom? How did that skill translate differently than you expected?
Yeah. The first one, resourcefulness. Just like in the military, you will not always have all the best equipment or best resources available in that moment in the classroom. So being able to use your resources, like building those relationships throughout the school where you can lean on each other, or using even there's companies out there that work with teachers, do things for education, working with them, finding those resources and not just sitting down and letting whatever happen. That is something that definitely came from the military because you have to be able to be resourceful. And then I mentioned the high stakes decision making a little bit earlier with dealing with multiple experiences in the classroom. One of my favorite things that I've ever heard, and this comes from a study, is that teachers make more decisions a day than a brain surgeon. And that refers to the average teacher makes 1,500 decisions a day. That seems, even for me who did this for 5 years, that's insane to me to think of. But then I think back and it's the, hey, can I use the restroom? Hey, can I get a snack out of it? Hey, can I go over to so-and-so's desk? It's all those small decisions that are small in my mind, but are high stakes for the students, because if they don't get that water in that moment, then there's going to be a reaction to that. Maybe they might not be learning. If a friend goes over to another friend's desk, are they going to get the best academics out of this lesson, or is it going to be a chatting session? So making those decisions in the moment that seem small but are very high stakes when it comes to the student's education, because it's very important. That is the biggest, like, kind of other skill other than leadership that came into play. Along with that is decision making. I was a very confident educator when I made that decision. Of course, it was informed by other people and the students, but when that decision was made, we went with that. It wasn't oh, I'm going to try this and then go over here. It was through my work with other people, research, whatever it may be, we've come up with, this is how we need to proceed. And we proceeded that way to collect the data to then be able to inform our practices in the classroom. So just really doing all of that, like, higher level thinking that might not necessarily jump to the front of your mind when you're thinking of your experience in military, but is constantly everyday stuff that you do. Those are going to be the biggest resources and the biggest help in the classroom.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Tyler. When you start to talk about the minor decisions, I'm like, yeah, there are a lot of decisions you make as a teacher, and many of them are surrounding the students and not just yourself. So, as you were saying that, I was just thinking about all those small questions you get throughout the day. All right, so I'm going to move us on to our next question. In what ways has Teach for America's financial support and professional development removed barriers that might be preventing you from making this transition? How have the stipends, credential assistance, and career resource empowered you to focus on your teaching responsibilities without the financial anxiety many veterans face when considering career changes?
Yes. And before I go into that, briefly just want to apologize. The lights decided to go out on me here, so I briefly had to turn them back on. But looking at the financial support and the barriers that are removed because of Teach for America, I want to start at the beginning. When you're going into what we call the summer pre-service, or the training before your day one of school, you get a grant or a stipend from Teach for America. That is huge. That helped me not have to work during that summer. I was able to just focus on the training, just focus on moving, because I was moving across states and getting my feeding in that new, like, environment, school, and just focus on what I was there to learn and the skills I was there to develop. Aside from that, kind of continuing with the financial support, is now it looks a little bit different since the time I went through, but there is additional help with your master's degree. Or in my case, I had my master's degree going in, so I was able to use that towards my student loans, which as an educator is a huge concern for many people who are in the classroom. I love that aspect of it. That really helped me a lot. Kind of going to where like the credentials and stuff teach, like, this might be a little bit too back, but originally I taught in Ohio, moved to Boston to teach. And Boston doesn't accept, or Massachusetts doesn't accept Ohio's teaching license. Teach for America not only helped me get my new license in Massachusetts, but they got my Ohio license transferred to Massachusetts when the state told me that it was impossible. The people who work in Teach for America have no barriers. I truly believe that because of the connections, the alumni, and everyone kind of working together to do this work. When you are teaching, Teach for America does offer some additional kind of fellowships. One that I took part in allowed me to talk to incoming core members, but also gave me an extra paycheck as a teacher, which was extremely helpful in just kind of the day-to-day expenses of living. Ultimately, with all of that, the kind of anxiety or stress of the finances that teachers can face wasn't necessarily a concern for me. And if anyone's familiar with Boston, it is extremely expensive out there. So if I was feeling this way in Boston, I know everywhere else in the United States where we work with the students, it's going to be even much of so much more helpful in those areas.
Thank you, Tyler, for sharing that. I'm going to move us to our next question. For veterans who are used to intense hands-on training, how does the TFA Institute, our initial training, which you kind of talked about earlier, pre-service training, compare to military preparation? How prepared did you feel for the classroom on day one, and what surprised you most about the training? Looking back at what you wish you had known then.
Yeah, looking back on what I wish I knew going in was the quality of it all. I mentioned that I had my master's degree before joining Teach for America. So, admittedly, I came in a little bit with a chip on my shoulder, like, oh, training, I've been through it. No, I was blown away. Not only like was it so practical, I was teaching students in the morning until noon, and then after going back in a large group and hands-on, like practical, I could have done this in this situation, or tomorrow he's here, so I'm going to try this. It was very practical, instant application, which was something that you don't always get going through training, which I really love. That's how I learned, so I love that part. But on the other side of that, it was such a high level of like just theory and educational practices that it wasn't necessarily what I learned in my bachelor's degree, but what I learned in my master's degree. So that just difference of high quality training is master's level for like education, which is insane going into your first year teaching with that kind of like preparedness. On the flip side, or not flip side, when you're going through this training, now I mentioned hands-on is the way for me. If I'm sitting in the training for an hour, I'm going to zone out. It was so much fun. I never had so much fun just being goofy and trying different things and just being able to be yourself because it truly is a safe space in Teach for America. So making those mistakes, making or asking those questions, that's encouraged. I shared a lot there. Wrapping up, not only was the like quality of the training high level, master's degree, but it was very practical, and you're able to instantly practice what you were learning, which was extremely cool to me.
Thanks for sharing that, Tyler. So tell us, what has been the most rewarding aspect of continuing your service through Teach for America? And how does the sense of mission and personal fulfillment you derive from teaching compare or differ from your military service? What keeps you motivated on those challenging days?
Yeah, I think the most rewarding um, aspect of continuing to serve through Teach for America is being able to work with the groups of students who often are overlooked. And what I mean by that is they might not have all the newest textbooks or resources, um, but that makes that so much more special. Those students that I worked with, I mean, every day was a joy, even when they decided that they wanted to challenge me. It was a good challenge because it just helped build that deep bond that I guess is kind of missing from my life from when I was in the military, to be honest. Just that deep connection. Now it's different because, of course, you are teaching students, but you do get to develop that deep bond with the students and know exactly what they need. When they're having a rough day, when they come into school and the morning was not what they wanted, they're going to come to you because that deep bond is there. And that's something that I really gained since being in the military. And on the other side, like Teach for America is so close knit that it's that bond with adults, which is more what you would have gotten in the military. And I've just never been more like excited to kind of go into work, but also just fulfilled in when those students, when something clicks, whether that's academics or they're having a challenge with a friend and they decided to walk away instead of, yeah, whatever it may be that they're working on, when that finally clicks into the excitement in their eyes, that's fulfilling. What keeps me going, even on the most challenging days, is two things. One, I always keep in mind that the situation isn't about me. I am there to help those students, and I'm coming into that situation. Now, maybe they're upset with me because I told them they had to redo their homework. That's different. Most of the time, though, there's an underlying thing where the students are already upset and you have to work to figure that out. And I love that. That fulfills me so much, just being able to dig that deep with them, and keeps me going. The other thing, though, is just a personal thing that I do, and it's keep a list of the funny things kids say to me. Off the top of my head, I was teaching one day, back turned, writing on the board, and I hear, "Mr. Johnston, you got small ears." And the class erupted out of nowhere. Had nothing to do, like we were in math, and out of nowhere, that just comes out. And I was like, you know what? He interrupted class, but that was funny. I was not expecting that. So holding on to those small moments where you're just like, what was that? I love thinking about that. That happened years ago, and I still remember exactly how he said it, where he was sitting in the classroom, just because that just brings that or shows that deep connection that you have with them.
Thanks for sharing that, Tyler. I always wish I'd had compiled like a book or like a list of like the funny things that students say, because there are so many that you encounter throughout the day and throughout the years for sure. So sticking with like that same theme of like students and student impact, how have you been able to leverage your veteran status and experiences to inspire and support your students in ways that non-military teachers might not be able to?
Yeah, one of the ways that I kind of leverage that is my students know there's a lot expected of them. When they are working with me, they know that we are here to complete what task we have. So I'm able to get so much out of them because they know coming in, we're going to do this. Now, I'm a little bit lenient on the back end where you come in, we do what we have to do. We learn, we go through the lesson, whatever it is we're working on that day. You do get that kind of freedom by the end, a little 5 minutes maybe. That kind of helped me not only leverage kind of the students' wants because they want that 5 minutes, right? They want the whole class to be like that 5 minutes. But the structure and almost the rigidity of how my classroom ran because of the military background, the students respected it. They knew exactly what was coming next. They knew exactly what was expected of them during each time. I didn't have often times of transition in classrooms, often can be a little chaotic. That wasn't necessarily the case in my classroom. Now, of course, there's days that it was. mostly caused by me getting too hyper, but the students respect if you are rigid and they know what to expect coming forward or moving forward throughout their day, they will be much more active listening during your lesson and there in the moment than in other classrooms where it might be a little less loose with the rules or the rigidity, whatever it may be. So yeah, kind of having that structure that came from the military and developing it for students use in the classroom. And sorry, I was just going to say,
No,
and I
go ahead, go
guess
ahead.
kind of the impact on that is I got a lot of more lessons out of my students. And I think I mentioned this. If not, I was a middle school special education teacher with Teach for America, and 100% of my students met their goal 2 years in a row that I worked there because we knew what we had to work on. And that was something that was very impactful in their education long term because they were able to progress not only one grade level in a year, but two. So closing that gap that was already there.
Thank you for sharing that, Tyler. And it sounds like you made an amazing impact on the students that you were working with. So I'm going to go into our closing questions so that we also have time for questions from our audience. So our final question is, if someone is exploring the application process right now with the October 20th deadline approaching, what is the single most important piece of advice you would give them to prepare for a successful application and interview? And what do you wish you'd known or done differently?
Yeah. To have a successful application and interview later down the line, communicate, reach out to people, whether that's Bridget, myself, Katie, whoever you are in contact with, reach out. Tony even shared his information. That way, we can help you as a part of Teach for America. We want you to be successful. Now, we're not going to give you all the answers, but whatever support you need, that's what we're here for. We want to be able to support you through that application and then eventually interview process with the hopes that you join and make an impact in that classroom. So the biggest piece I have is reach out to someone and get in contact with someone if you're not. If you already are, ask them what is your advice going for the application? What should I be looking for? Second thing that I really want to highlight is in the application there is some extended responses. Think of your goal as something that impacted the larger community around you. Um, there is so many things that you have done in the military that could be a long-term goal or yeah, long-term goal that you accomplished. Use one of them. Your leadership skills in the military, highlight that. There's so much that you have to offer, not only the students across the nation, but just in the world of making change happen. And you have so much to offer. Make sure you highlight yourself. Don't be afraid to brag on your accomplishments. But ultimately, reach out to somebody because they're going to be able to walk through those specifics with you and really help you highlight yourself.
Excellent advice, Tyler. Thank you so much for sharing that. Right now, we'd like to open up the floor for some questions from our audience. If anyone has any questions, you can come off mute and voice over your questions. Or if you're not able to do that, you can also add them into the Zoom chat box, and we'll be able to read them and have Tyler answer them.
Hi, Bridget.
Hi.
Hi, this is Cody McRoberts. Thank you, and thank you, Tyler, for your stories and sharing your insight. I do have a question. Thanks for going over the timeline. I see that. Okay, you and then looking on the website, the application needs to be submitted by the 20th. You're learn if you're invited to an interview on 27th. Attend an interview first week in November. Then you accept or decline an offer if it's given by mid-December, but then the program really doesn't start until August and September. Um, and where I'm failing to connect the dots too is the teaching credentials or licenses, certificates. Can you explain how that happens, or is there an expectation that happens before the program starts in August or September, or if you could walk us through?
Yeah, I can go ahead
Sure.
and jump in. Or Bridget, did you want to take that?
Oh, it's up to you, Tyler. If you want to, it's fine.
If there's anything I missed, you can fill in. So pretty much from if you choose to accept an offer, offers extended, you choose to accept it. From that time frame until about the beginning of June, what your kind of expectation is working through your teacher licensure exam, studying for that and preparing for that. Um, Along with there will be some asynchronous virtual trainings that you'll partake in. And then from June to like beginning to mid of August, depending. Well, it really depends on the region, but roughly that time frame. That's when you'll be doing your pre-service training with Teach for America virtually at first, and then in person later on. After that is immediately your school training. So you'll go through the orientation and stuff with that specific school you are hired into as well. Uh, that's a general overview. Bridget, if you have more specifics that you would like to add.
Sure, yeah, I can jump in there. So essentially, when you're thinking about like the teacher certification process, like Tyler stated, you're starting the exams that you need to take. If the region that you choose has you take the exams before starting in the region, then you're doing that in like essentially the spring, summer term. And then in the fall, when you're starting your classroom as a full-time teacher, you're receiving ongoing professional development and support through a manager of leadership development who is supporting you through Teach for America, as well as you're taking those courses for the teacher certification. So it's pretty unique in the way that you get to work as a full-time teacher while also going through the certification process. And for some of our regions, that process is 1 year. For some of the other regions, there it's actually for 2 years. So it just really depends. It's a variation. But essentially, during that time frame of you serving, you are teaching full time and then also going through that certification process. And Cody, does that kind of clear up like how it's like happening simultaneously, or does
It
that lead to
does.
any
I guess
follow-up
what's going through my
questions?
mind is it even feasible if, like, I've taken new steps towards teaching certification, but I do have a master's in another field. But is it feasible to even start in December and finish by June? The requirements to then get in the classroom in, I guess, August, September.
Oh, yes, for sure. The program itself, because I also did the same. I was not a traditional education major, and I started the program out of college. And I actually did the core in New York City, where a master's degree was mandatory. So I essentially was taking graduate level courses and teaching full time. The great thing about doing Teach for America for this program is that we provide like the ongoing support and deadlines and we guide you through it. So it's not like you're independently doing it. You're doing it in a cohort of other core members who are teaching in the same location as you.
And
Okay.
kind of hopping
Mhm.
I was just going to add to what Bridget was saying. On top of that, the expectation and kind of the understanding with the schools we work with is that after your 2 years, you will be a fully licensed teacher. Um, so getting those exams and working through that earlier when you have that time is my suggestion because the school year can be busy. I also, not traditional route, I ended up having to take a little bit more time on my teaching licensure test, and it did extend into my time teaching that first year. It was a little bit busy. It was hard. So I suggest trying to get it done as soon as possible before that. But it's not necessarily 100% true. And correct me if I'm wrong, that you have to have all those done by day one teaching. The hope is that you do, but it's not a mandatory. Is that correct, Bridget?
Yes, that's correct. It definitely varies depending on the region itself, but it is most of the regions you have like a little window of like flexibility. But essentially, throughout all of that, you do have the support with Teach for America in terms of like preparation for your exams as well too, and that guidance. So definitely feasible. A lot of work, but it's worth it. I also noticed in the chat that we have a question from Christopher Henderson, and the question is, how does the placement slash location and match work? We have what's called direct to apply, so you actually get to apply directly to the region of your choice. If you know that, let's say it's Idaho or no other place, you can place Idaho as your one choice on your application. If you're interested in other regions, you can list up to 3 regions. We ask that you rank them based on like your region of interest. In terms of how does matching work, we look at your application as a whole and your interview process, and then will receive an offer to join Teach for America first, and then we look at your regions that of your choice. And then from there, once we look at your region of choice, we look at the your degree and the courses that you've taken and the teacher pathways. So from there, we'll give you a list of teacher certification pathways that align with the degree that you've had. So you get to choose from those different options. So it provides a lot of choice for the folks who actually apply to the program. So you do get to choose the location and then also the teacher certification pathway within respect to the degree that you have and how it aligns with teacher certification in that region. You're welcome. Are there any other, like I think we have time for one more question if we have another one. No? All right. So if there's no other questions. And of course, if you have questions later, we're definitely going to have our contact information for you to be able to contact us later to ask any additional questions. All right. As I mentioned earlier, if you would like to learn more about the Teacher Corps, we definitely encourage you to attend a Corps-specific info session. We'll drop the link in the chat for you again, and you can also access it using the bit.ly link on this slide. That session will provide a bunch more detail on the corps, including what and where you'll teach, more about salary and finances, and how teacher certification works, more on training and support, and info on applying. This one will also offer breakout rooms with representatives from every TFA region, so you can learn specifics about the region you might be interested in teaching in. Also, on your screen, you'll find the link to start an application, and we also offer application support workshops that include full group, small group, and individualized support with responding to the questions on our application. The next application deadline for the 2026 core is actually this Monday, October the 20th at 11:59 p.m. in your time zone. In the chat, I know Katie has pasted the Zoom chat information if you are interested in that information session. I will be there tomorrow representing Idaho, so if you want to learn more about teaching in Idaho, definitely join us. For those of you who may be interested in our Ignite Fellowship for the spring of 2026, the application is now open and it runs through November the 19th. You can click on the link in the chat or use the bit.ly address on the slide to learn more. Once again, the Ignite Fellowship is open for those who are undergrads, grad students, TFA alum, or renewing fellows. We also have upcoming info sessions to learn more about logistics and the Ignite experience. Dates for the application workshops will also be available soon. And thank you, Katie, for dropping that in the chat as well, too. And thank you all so much for joining us. You can also find upcoming events and tons of streaming content related to the issues we care most about and on our Learning Hub. All you have to do is scan the QR code on the screen. And I also want to remind you all that change must happen now, and Teach for America is an incredible opportunity to be a part of making that change alongside students, families, and communities. Not only will you change the future of your students, you'll change your future too. We're going to share a quick survey in the chat, and we really appreciate your feedback there. It will just take a couple of minutes to complete, and thank you again for your engagement, and I truly hope you consider this opportunity, and I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon and evening.